In 2017, Motel 6 got its guests deported by giving Immigration, Customs and Enforcement, or ICE, without warrant or reasonable suspicion of criminality, their customers' private info. We know this because two journalists working for the Phoenix New Times, Antonia Farzan and Joseph Flaherty, released a review of court records, found that between February and August 2017, ICE agents made at least 20 arrests at Motel 6s. When employees were asked, they said, "We send a report every morning to ICE, all the names of everybody that comes in." One front desk clerk explained, "Every morning at about 5 o'clock, we do the audit and we push a button and it sends it to ICE." Thanks to a 2015 Supreme Court decision, the city can't require motels to turn over that information without a warrant. But if a motel chooses to do so voluntarily, that's up to the owner. The news quickly spread around the country. Motel 6 acknowledged they have been sharing guest information with ICE. Reza Rekoff, a spokesperson for Motel 6 and G6 Hospitality, the company formed by the Blackstone Group to manage Motel 6, said, "This was implemented at the local level without the knowledge of senior management. When we became aware of it last week, it was discontinued." This was a lie. When America discovered Motel 6 was working with ICE, the fallout was swift. Hashtag Boycott Motel 6 started trending. The ACLU demanded answers. People called on Tom Bodette to respond. Well-known Latino cartoonist Lalo Alcaraz sketched a Motel 6 immigration detention camp, and Motel 6 even got yelled at by a Coleslaw fan account. Arizona Congressman Ruben Gallego and U.S. Representative Pramila Jayapal wrote to ICE to expressly forbid the random screening and harassment of hotel guests by your personnel in the future. Texas Congressman Joaquin Castro wrote on Twitter that the Motel 6 arrangement with ICE amounts to an intelligence operation. Phoenix New Times journalist Farzan Flaherty received an email from Motel 6's spokesperson Reza Rekoff stating, "Regarding your media story on the Phoenix area location, this was implemented at the local level without the knowledge of senior management." The reporters asked two important questions. If this was something that was implemented at the local level, then why did local management tell us to get in touch with the corporate public relations team when we asked about it? They also asked, why exactly was Motel 6 collaborating with ICE in the first place? Thomas Robles, the executive director of Living United for Change Arizona, observed, "Leadership creates culture, and culture spreads throughout whatever organization you're in. Just because it hasn't been reported in other states doesn't mean it is not happening there." In fact, it was happening in other states. Motel 6 was feeding customers information to Immigration and Customs Enforcement without warrant or probable cause. Public outrage was understandable. At that time, a movement called Abolish ICE was well underway. Abolish ICE was formed in response to the increasingly aggressive policies of ICE and would spark the formation of another movement on June 17, 2018, in Portland, Oregon, Occupy ICE. What started as a vigil against zero-tolerance child separation policies of the Trump administration turned into an occupation of ICE facilities across the nation. The result was numerous flashpoints between protesters, ICE agents, Federal Protective Service officers, and elite combat units usually employed to exfiltrate violent cartel members. During the confrontations, protesters were frequently tased and shot at near point-blank range with pepper balls before being dragged off for processing and detention. The ICE facility occupations eventually came to an end. The outrage about ICE remained. Immigration and Customs Enforcement answers to the Department of Homeland Security, which in turn answers to the President of the United States. Public anger posed such a threat to ICE employees that their investigations division requested a reorganization of ICE that would distance themselves from the officers responsible for enforcement and removal operations. In a joint letter to the director of DHS, they asked to be placed in a separate agency. They didn't appreciate the scrutiny being caused by their colleagues. Their request was denied. In 2017, if you checked into a Motel 6, an employee at the front desk using a piece of software called Hotel Key would record your name, home address, phone number, official government ID, date of birth, the make, model, and license plate number of your car. Whether corporate or franchise owned, this information was sent to the Motel 6 headquarters, known as G6 Hospitality, and located in Carrollton, Texas. Computers at their corporate headquarters would process your information to determine if you were on their national do not rent list. If you weren't on their list, they would collect payment and authorize the front desk to provide you with a room key. Depending on your location and the day of the week, all of the information collected was also sent to the Department of Homeland Security, specifically to Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. ICE would run your name through a database to see if there were any outstanding warrants for you. Even if there were no outstanding warrants against you, a local agent would knock on the door and request to talk if they thought your name sounded foreign. Failing to answer or refusing to talk was viewed by ICE agents as being suspicious. They might return with a warrant based on that suspicious behavior, which could lead to your detention for non-cooperation. But you had done nothing wrong.